My people, ah, yeah, 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 yeah. So for the Africans leader, we never know waiting they are with them. They never know. They are just playing. They think this is a matter of joke. It don't dey shock. The thing don't dey shock people, and the result don't dey come out. This video when I want give una so it go clear the hell about wetin dey happen and wetin go soon happen to those people wey be say they think say this one a family business. No, a lot is happening. You guys need to see this video. My people, as oga sele go talk, he go say e don red. This time around, e no only red, e burst.
Because of bad leadership and marginalization. You are always somewhere in Europe with Madame Chantel, while the young people in your country suffer. Is it a time for all of this to be over in Cameroon? Because at the age of your 90s, you still want to go for another election cycle again. And even if we can commend Paul Kagame as a visionary for the modern Rwanda, your success is not as good until you have a successor. So rejigging the military will not be the best solution. The best solution will be, when is it time to hand over power to the people? Because you are not the people's hero. One way or the other, the people will find other heroes. You are just playing your part in history. And isn't it time for you to go? President Tinubu still talking, and I commend President Tinubu as regards what he's doing now in Niger, diplomacy, still talking with the Nigerians and saying we don't want war. Yes, he should talk more with the junta. And hopefully the junta too will be able to respond. But the junta too is also solidifying its base in power, trying as much as possible now to remove every vestige of France in the country. But the French ambassador says it's not going anywhere. That's a very sticky issue they should be careful about. But kudos to President Tinubu on this. Hopefully we solve the Niger crisis. And hopefully most African leaders also understand the implications of their actions, their bad leadership, their seat-tightism. And other African leaders too that have continued this. The Eyedema dynasty in Togo. The Sassou Nguessos of this world. The Theodore Obiang of this world. It can't last forever. We all saw what happened to Bouteflika. And Bouteflika thought he could be in Nigeria forever. It cannot last. All of these leaders should go back and learn from Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela. When Mandela took power after being in incarceration for 27 years, Mandela could have chosen to be life president of South Africa. But have they ever asked why Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela said, I'm not the hero alone, and he did one term and he left? Today, we shower encomiums on Mandela. Other leaders go and learn what make Mandela tick before you quote him. Good morning.
Okay, first, let's start with Niger. Niger saying that they had expelled the the French ambassador to Niger, having given him an ultimatum to leave the country. Well, France had responded to say that, look, what they have in Niger is an illegal government. But the reality is that Chiani and his group, they are the ones who are currently in charge of power in that country, while the AU and the rest of the international community is trying to find a solution to the unconstitutional takeover of power in that country. However, it's a matter of diplomacy. The 1961 Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations, 1961, that is, Article 9, says that a receiving state can declare a diplomat in a particular country a persona non grata. A persona non grata means that diplomat is no longer welcome in that particular jurisdiction, and that the state will not be responsible for anything with regard to the diplomatic immunity that diplomatic and consular officers are entitled to. So technically, what the guys in charge in Niger have done is to say this particular representative of France in Niger can no longer enjoy any form of immunity. It's also an indirect way of saying his safety cannot be guaranteed under the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic and Consular Relations. So effectively, I think France will have a responsibility to worry about the safety of their diplomat in Niger, because you cannot impose, as a sending state, a diplomat on a receiving state. And you cannot insist on keeping your diplomat there against the wish of the receiving state. And the receiving state, in fact, needs not to give any explanation. And that is why you see that the Nigerian authorities have refused to give any explanation. So that is that about Niger. And in conflict situations such as this, as you have seen between Russia and Ukraine, and also between the United States and Ecuador, at a particular point, a diplomat can be expelled. That is that about that. So it's not about grandstanding and saying, we are France, we want to keep our man there by force. Now, two, the reaction from Paul Kagame, who has retired 83 senior military officers and immediately replaced them. 83. And also the old man in Cameroon, Paul Biya, who suddenly regained life and also decided to retire senior military officers. Paul Biya has been in power for about 41 years. One of those sit-tight leaders in Africa who keep staying on and changing the constitution. Paul Kagame has had to change the constitution in Rwanda that will keep him in power till 2034. He has been there, he has been in power there for about 27 years, but he still wants to say till 2034. And now, having seen what President Tinubu described as autocratic contagion, or what he described as the copycat syndrome that seems to be emerging with regard to unconstitutional takeover of power, those persons who think that they too may be affected are quickly moving fast to prevent any kind of contagion in their own areas. But will it protect them? Because as we have seen in Mali, as we have seen in Guinea, Conakry, as we have seen in Niger, also in Chad twice, the persons who organize these schools, they are usually persons in charge of special forces. In Mali, Assimi Goita was head of the special forces. In Gabon, as you are seeing now, the man there, is the head of the Presidential Republican Guard. So these are persons who have direct access to the president. And so, in the case of the Rwandese president, Paul Kagame and Paul Biya, it will appear that the statement is true after all, that the guilty are afraid. The reason why African leaders don't have to panic like that is for them to provide such good governance so that they can be kept in place by the goodwill and faith of their own people. Now, Nigeria is not left out. Yesterday, we were told that the GOC 81 div of the Nigerian army, was telling the troops that anybody who is not loyal to President Tinubu should just leave the armed forces, and that they must show loyalty, discipline, professionalism. Fine, good talk. But the only objection I have to his statement is that he kept talking about you must be loyal to President Tinubu. No, the Nigerian armed forces, it's not about loyalty to a person. It's about loyalty to the Nigerian constitution. It's the constitutional order we are talking about here, not about individuals. Because when the general was going on, you must be loyal to President Tinubu and all that. No, the Nigerian military must be loyal to the constitution. And the only way of changing power that the constitution of Nigeria recognizes is through the ballot box. And that is why the coup in all these other African countries, the coups are being condemned, because they go outside the framework of the constitution. Now, beyond all of this, is President Tinubu's further intervention, meeting with the Nigerian Council of Islamic Affairs, and urging them to keep mediating in the crisis in Niger. well, that's fine, because in any case, the needful had been done in terms of condemning military intervention in that country. But it is good to see that the ECOWAS chairman, who doubles also as Nigerian president, is now telling us that, look, the option of negotiation, mediation, has not been ruled out. The coup makers in Niger, they say they want to stay for 3 years. The Algerians have intervened through their foreign minister, who has put a proposal on the table recommending a 6-month transition plan. So, well, would a 6-month transition plan be acceptable? These are part of the questions in the air. But the African Union has taken the usual programmatic step of suspending Gabon, from the African Union. Well, they did the same thing with Mali. African Union did the same thing with Niger, right? Now they've done the same thing with Gabon. But the question to ask is, look, yes, the AU Commission can make pronouncements through, its chairperson. The African Peace and Security Council of the, or Committee of the African Union can talk about the constitutive acts of the African Union, but why is it that the AU has become so ineffectual in changing the trend of, a reckless usurpation of power in one African country to the other? These are issues that are still on the table. But the bigger consensus, of course, is that nobody agrees in any way with any form of violent disruption of the constitutional order in Africa. Because as you have seen now, it has led to a copycat syndrome that is even making the sit-tight leaders very uncomfortable. I hope they will get their lesson here, that one, you don't violate the electoral process and impose your will on the people. You allow institutions to work. Two, that you don't tamper with the constitutional term limits, as Paul Kagame has done, and as has also been done in Cameroon. That three, sovereignty belongs to the people, not to the big man who thinks that, he's in power, he can keep perpetuating himself in power at the extent, at the expense, to the negative interest of the people that they are supposed to serve.
Well, just as has been mentioned, let me start with the area of the reshuffling by the president of Rwanda and the president of Cameroon. And as has widely been said, and analysts have observed, is that it's a response to the coups that have happened, 8 in number already, especially for countries that were colonized by the French. And so Rwanda and Cameroon, who are also Francophone countries, have decided to make a move in what is believed to be, a proactive measure to preventing an occurrence in their countries. It's already been established that President Paul Biya of Cameroon has been president since 1982, whilst President Kagame has been there for over 20 years. What one would imagine, as has been said a number of times this week, is that these presidents, who are sit-tight presidents, sit-tight leaders in their country, would